At this moment, the blood ancestor's eyes turned crimson, nearly driven to madness. His speed was unimaginable. With a single step, he arrived beside the magically reinforced teleportation array. Behind him, the storage dimension appeared as if consumed by black flames, with the flames lunging forward, desperate to engulf the blood ancestor. Just as the blood ancestor prepared to step into the teleportation array, Wong Lin, being pursued by the crimson needle on the fragment continent, wore a grim expression. Although his essence spirit had been extinguished, the immortal guard, refined under the blood ancestor, still existed. Through a faint connection with the immortal guard puppet, Wong Lin could vividly see the flickering lights within the teleportation array and the blood ancestor's form rapidly coalescing. If the blood ancestor broke through, Wong Lin was certain he would meet his demise, with no hope of survival remaining. In the face of this crisis, he sighed inwardly, decisively forming a thought. I couldn't fulfill my promise to you. One day, I will make it up to you. Outside the teleportation array, the immortal guard, refined in the sea of blood, flashed golden light from its eyes. This golden radiance instantly intensified, enveloping its entire being, as muffled explosions erupted from within the immortal guard, an aura of destruction mingled within. It was as if a storm erupted inside the immortal guard. Its golden light surged out like sharp swords. The essence spirit of the deficiency realm puppet self-destructed, creating a terrifying force that propelled the immortal guard out of the blood ancestor's once controlling magical sphere. Although the blood ancestor's control had waned, his magic was still formidable. The explosion's power was diminished by nearly 60% under his refining. With 40% of its destructive power remaining, the immortal guard surged forward, arriving beside the teleportation array. The instant the blood ancestor transformed within the array, the immortal guard's entire body erupted with golden light, radiant as the sun. An immense force exploded at that moment. Caught in the blast, the teleportation array instantly shattered, disintegrating into countless sparkling fragments that vanished in an instant. Inside the storage dimension, the blood ancestor had half his body entering the teleportation array. At that moment, he bellowed and was forcibly pushed back, helplessly watching as the teleportation array rapidly collapsed before him, its speed akin to compressing a millennium into a heartbeat. In this desperate moment, the blood ancestor's eyes glimmered with a unique light. Without hesitation, he glanced at the restriction orb in his hand containing Yao Shishiwei and shattered it. Even though Yao Shishiwei had taken a blood soul pill, one pill was insufficient for resurrection. Thus, the blood ancestor acted personally, shattering the restriction to ensure Yao Shishiwei's revival. With his understanding of the blood soul pill, he knew at the moment the orb shattered that Yao Shishiwei had consumed it. Behind him, the black flame surged. The blood ancestor's entire body was engulfed in a frenzied crimson glow as he sought to delay the collapse of the storage dimension, buying time for Yao Shishiwei to be revived without interference. The blood ancestor spread his arms wide, unleashing the full force of his mid-pure nirvana stage cultivation. Waves of blood light radiated from his body, fiercely resisting the encroaching black flames in the storage dimension. For an instant, his body was enveloped by the black flames, continuously burning him. The intense pain was something he hadn't experienced in millennia, yet this was insignificant to the blood ancestor. He devoted everything to protect the area around him, particularly where Yao Shishiwei's essence spirit was dissipating. Moments felt like thousands of years as Yao Shishiwei, shielded by her father's protection, experienced the obliteration of the restriction orb, her essence spirit dissipating without being harmed by the collapsing storage dimension. In the land of demonic spirits, where Yao Shishiwei had once swallowed the blood soul pill, crimson light swirled and coalesced. Yao Shishiwei appeared, her body nude and slowly materializing. After emerging, she looked up toward the distant sky, her eyes filled with deep sorrow and an indelible killing intent. Seeing his daughter's essence spirit safely dissipate, the blood ancestor wore a gentle smile indicative of a father's affection, but in the next instant, his entire body was consumed by black flames. At that moment, he took out 3 blood soul pills from his storage pouch. Instead of swallowing them, he smashed them all. Only 13 blood soul pills remained. The vast majority were with Yao Shishiwei. The blood ancestor was left with just these 3. As the blood soul pills shattered, blue liquid spilled forth, mingling with the black flames, vanishing together. In that instant, the entire storage dimension collapsed completely. Everything within it disappeared in the blink of an eye. They did not simply dissolve into nothingness but utterly collapsed, leaving no trace of existence behind. Wong Lin, who had been hiding on the fragment continent, was now incredibly swift, flickering with bloodlight 9 times as he made his escape, while the Crimson Needle relentlessly pursued him. However, in the next moment, the Crimson Needle stopped chasing, and layer after layer collapsed, eventually seeming to completely dissipate. Wong Lin let out a sigh of relief, his clothes soaked through with cold sweat. As the wind blew, he immediately felt a surge of chill. In front of him, the Crimson Needle had already become translucent, slowly dissipating. But at that very moment, just when it seemed about to vanish completely, it suddenly trembled, and instead of dissipating, it turned around and shot off towards the distance. Not dead. A flash of horror appeared in Wong Lin's eyes. Without a second thought, he dashed forward, extending his hands into the void. Immediately, he expelled his essence spirit energy, forming a binding cage that trapped the retreating Crimson Needle. The needle emitted a sharp screech, as if it were trying to break free, continuously thrashing inside the cage. The sound of collisions echoed as every impact caused Wong Lin's face to turn paler. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. With his immortal power circulating, he strengthened the cage, slowly pulling it closer while staring at the needle inside with determination. "Seal," he whispered. The cage instantly contracted, sealing the needle tightly. Then, he grabbed it and landed on the ground. Had the blood ancestor not weakened most of his divine powers, Wong Lin would never have been able to seal this needle. But at this moment, the needle was at its weakest, and with all his immortal power, Wong Lin finally sealed it. Even so, it remained unstable, the Crimson Needle still seeming to be on the brink of breaking free. Wong Lin took a deep breath, his face extremely grim. The blood ancestor didn't die. But even if he didn't die, he must be incredibly weak. Otherwise, this needle wouldn't have behaved this way. Once the blood ancestor recovers, he will certainly try to kill me first. A cold light flashed in Wong Lin's eyes as he stared at the needle, which was half transparent, emanating an aura of imminent death. This needle must be trying to return to the blood ancestor. I can't miss this chance. I must take a risk. Wong Lin gritted his teeth, his right hand flicking the Crimson Needle forward. The needle shimmered and shot toward the distance, with Wong Lin closely following, adjusting his immortal power as he chased. The needle, marked with a seal, was easier to track, and in the Thunder Immortal realm, they moved incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from sight. In the Thunder Immortal realm, countless tiny blood drops floated in the void, each glowing with blue light. At first glance, they seemed quite beautiful. Each blood drop contained a trace of the blood ancestor's essence spirit and enormous primordial energy. During the collapse of the storage dimension, he used 3 blood soul pills to perform a Yao clan secret technique, which allowed him to survive. When the blood ancestor arrived at the Luotian star domain, he had been overly confident and hadn't consumed the blood soul pills in advance. If he had done so, he would have appeared in the blood star within the Alliance star domain. In the void, the blood drops were not stationary but were slowly drawing closer to one another. Once they fully merged, the blood ancestor would awaken. This process continued slowly. 3 months later, the once widely scattered blood drops had gathered very close, some even merging with each other. The blood ancestor's essence spirit was gradually showing signs of awakening. Once awakened, his recovery speed would increase exponentially. One day, nearly 60% of the blood drops had fused together, and the blood ancestor's essence spirit began to show signs of waking from its lost state. At this moment, from a distance in the void, a streak of lightning flashed. It was a thunder beast with silver horns. The beast's neck was bound with an iron chain, and its body was covered with various paper talismans, giving it a rather disheveled appearance. Even the silver horns on its head had a small hole pierced through them, with an iron ring attached. The beast's eyes revealed a pitiful expression, as if it couldn't imagine how it had endured these past days. "Look at this. Now this matches my identity. This is a thunder beast. You must understand, in your current state, even those golden horned thunder beasts would feel inferior. You are the most unique thunder beast. Trust me, we are destined to be together." An old man sat atop the thunder beast, holding the iron chain around its neck as though riding a horse, looking quite at ease. Behind him, a vast expanse of lightning followed like meteors. In each streak of lightning, there was a thunder beast, and each one showed fear in its eyes. The old man occasionally raised his left hand to fiddle with the iron ring on the thunder beast's silver horns, his eyes filled with admiration. "I have such a strong connection with you. I almost don't want to return you to that little fellow." The thunder beast shivered. It was thoroughly terrified of the old man now, especially the word destiny, which for it was a nightmare. It would never forget how the old man would constantly mutter about fate while placing all sorts of strange things on its body. But on the other hand, it wasn't dissatisfied with anything on its body except for that iron ring, which it actually found somewhat pleasing. That's right, it's here. Heh, a powerful cultivator at the mid-pure nirvana stage, and yet here they are. What a coincidence. The elder's eyes gleamed as he stared at the vast array of blood droplets merging in the distance. Just as I expected from someone I chose as a fated person, to come up with such a method to deal with a pure nirvana cultivator. Fine, since he's my fated one, I'll lend a hand. The elder licked his lips, his large hand reaching forward. Immediately, all the blood droplets were effortlessly captured without resistance. With a squeeze, the blood droplets instantly fused together, and the blood ancestor's essence spirit completed its fusion and awakened in a split second. Thank you for your assistance, Senior. My family will surely repay you greatly. The blood ancestor's divine sense emerged from the blood droplets, his voice devoid of any emotion, calm and neutral. Stop pretending. You're clearly terrified, worried that I have bad intentions, thinking I might refine you into a pill? Huh? And you're even bringing up the Yo family. Even if the Yo family's blood god child came, do you think I'd be afraid of him? The elder touched the iron ring on the thunder beast's silver horns and twirled it, speaking with a hint of mockery. Regardless, must thank the senior for your help. The blood ancestor was silent for a moment before sending out his divine sense. I'm a man of reason, you see. I helped you shorten the fusion time, though. I don't know about your Yo family's blood-devouring technique. If you try to force a fusion, your cultivation level will drop by several stages. Although you're now at the late glimpse of nirvana stage, I didn't know this, so don't blame me, the elder smirked. The blood ancestor was silent, suppressing the anger in his essence spirit. His divine sense transmitted calmly, it's fine. Since you were unaware, it must be my fate. If you have no further matters, please release your power and let me depart. The elder chuckled, his eyes gleaming. Yell family brat, we have fate. The thunder beast beneath him shuddered, its gaze towards the blood ancestor filled with a trace of sympathy, but more than that, it was tinged with gloating. The blood ancestor remained silent. Weren't you just talking about repaying your debt? Now's the time. The elder raised his right hand, reaching into the void. He instantly pulled the blood ancestor's essence spirit out of the blood water, then, with a squeeze, ripped half of the essence spirit away. With a flick of his hand, he divided the mass of blood water in half. Half an essence spirit and half a blood body. That should be enough to repay me for my help, the elder said with a smile, slapping his hand. He immediately sent the remaining half of the blood ancestor's essence spirit into the blood water and blew a breath towards it. The blood water bubbled and, in an instant, collapsed, transforming into countless blood droplets scattering. The blood ancestor's essence spirit didn't even have time to send out a divine sense before it fell back into a deep sleep. Even though I'm sure my great plan will succeed, having the Yo family's descendants have an essence spirit and blood body increases my odds, doesn't it? The elder grinned, not even glancing at the blood droplets as he, along with the thunder beast, left the area. In the void, Wang Lin's face darkened as he followed the red needle ahead. Suddenly, the red needle gleamed brightly, emitting a powerful aura that shot out of Wong Lin's seal. This sudden change made Wong Lin's eyes narrow. But in the next moment, the red needle that had been flashing with red light dimmed once again, weaker than before, as if it could collapse at any moment. It swayed and shot toward the void ahead. Wong Lin furrowed his brows, hesitated for a moment, then sped up to follow. I must take this opportunity to kill the blood ancestor and eliminate the future threat. Wong Lin gritted his teeth, increasing his speed in pursuit. Time slowly passed. In this void, Wong Lin had already forgotten the passage of time, forgotten the burning pain in his body that was no longer intense but growing weaker. These things no longer mattered. All he could see in his eyes was the red needle ahead, which seemed on the verge of collapse. Gradually, the red needle moved faster and faster, and Wong Lin's speed could no longer keep up. But just then, Wong Lin suddenly stopped, his eyes gleaming with cold light as he looked ahead. In the void ahead, there were more than 10 blood orbs of various sizes, circling each other, as if preparing to merge. The red needle flickered and merged into one of the blood orbs. Immediately, a bloody aura spread. The blood orb that absorbed the red needle began to wriggle strangely, rapidly consuming the nearby blood orbs. Blood ancestor? A killing intent flashed in Wong Lin's eyes. Without hesitation, he slapped his storage pouch, and immediately, the mountain stone flew out. Using soul drawing, Wong Lin grabbed the soul of the mountain stone and pressed it forward. The mountain stone soul howled and collapsed in front of the blood orbs, creating a powerful force that caused the orbs to tremble. But the power of the mountain stone soul was still insufficient. The blood orbs quickly fused together. After releasing the mountain stone soul, Wong Lin stepped forward, taking out the immortal sword from his storage pouch. He raised it and swiftly slashed downward. The severing luo art was like a flash of lightning. Under its flicker, a sword struck, and the two blood spheres that were merging were immediately severed in the strike. Wong Lin did not pause. The powerful thunder might within his essence spirit erupted in an instant, forming bolts of lightning that wildly shot out, heading straight for those blood spheres. Under the intense impact, the blood spheres trembled violently. The essence spirit of the blood ancestor within them seemed to struggle, attempting to awaken. Wong Lin formed a seal with his hands, and more lightning surged out of his essence spirit, crazily pouring out. At this moment, he did not hold back and unleashed all the power of the thunder on the blood spheres. Simultaneously, he raised his immortal sword and struck again. With a loud bang, one of the blood spheres collapsed. A miserable groan seemed to come from the void. The remaining blood spheres, in that instant, quickly began to gather together at an insane speed. The blood ancestor's essence spirit was about to awaken. A murderous glint flashed in Wong Lin's eyes. He had a feeling that once these blood spheres fully fused, there would be no chance to kill the blood ancestor. He extended his right hand, shouting, "Freeze!" The immobilization technique was instantly deployed, but the essence spirit of the blood ancestor was too powerful. With Wong Lin's cultivation, he couldn't freeze them. His entire body's immortal power was running wild, and even his meridians were in agony. Moreover, his essence spirit had been previously injured, and he had no time to rest during the journey. Now, under the tremendous strain, he spat out a mouthful of blood and roared, "Freeze!" The blood spheres, still in the process of gathering, halted for just a moment. In that instant, the Karma Kunji whip suddenly appeared and lashed out fiercely. At the same time, the final sword chi of Ling Tianho's sword energy exploded from Wong Lin's body, charging straight toward the blood sphere. The Karma Kunji whip, Ling Tianho's sword chi, and the countless lightning bolts from Wong Lin's essence spirit seemed to converge at this moment, crazily charging in. As the blood ancestor's essence spirit was about to awaken within the blood spheres, they all rushed inside. The blood spheres that were merging collapsed, splitting into countless blood drops, accompanied by the blood ancestor's unwilling roar. In the collapse, they divided into two parts. One part quickly rolled away, fleeing with the blood ancestor's essence spirit at an incredible speed. The other part reversed and rushed toward Wong Lin. The blood drops that were rushing toward Wong Lin immediately enveloped him, flowing into his body through his pores. Intense pain surged, and Wong Lin's body staggered. He spat out another mouthful of blood, as if he had been struck by a tremendous force, and was thrown out, vanishing into the void. The immortal sword was controlled by Su Ligua, sweeping with a mountain stone, following Wong Lin. Although Su Ligua had a rebellious character, he was now filled with panic. The first thing he thought of was not fleeing alone, not freedom, but chasing after Wong Lin, who had been thrown into the void. He circled around Wong Lin, and together, they sped toward the void. Wong Lin's entire body was completely unconscious. The blood drops that had entered his body contained immense earth and heaven primordial energy, accumulated by the blood ancestor over countless years of cultivation. These energies were extremely precious. But within Wong Lin's body, these energies were the very sword that could bring about his death. Yet, sometimes in this world, there are mysterious opportunities. The elder who had once demanded the thunder beast had unintentionally released more of his breath. This breath would erupt when Wong Lin's body burned and disappeared. At that time, whether Wong Lin could endure it was uncertain, but there was a great chance that he would not be able to, and his essence spirit would collapse with him. However, at this moment, the blood ancestor, severely injured and attempting to escape, also sent a portion of his blood body to attack Wong Lin, entering his body. His intention was to kill, but unknowingly, he gave Wang Lin a chance for an opportunity that was second only to the breakthrough to the third step of cultivation. A loud boom echoed. Wang Lin's body, in the void, slammed into a piece of fragment continent that was not connected by lightning-forged iron but was floating in the void. In the Thunder Immortal realm, not all fragments were connected. Some two small pieces drifted in the void. Wang Lin's body plunged deep into the underground of this fragment continent before stopping. He was completely unconscious, but his physical body was rapidly changing. His body was now filled with the immense earth and heaven primordial energy, all sourced from the numerous blood drops. Even his essence spirit was undergoing astonishing changes. Wrapped in such dense earth and heaven primordial energy, it began to absorb them. His cultivation was rapidly advancing toward the deficiency realm. Outside the small range of fragment continent, clouds, which should not exist in the void, began to form, resembling the exact same clouds from when Wong Lin reversed his cultivation at the land of demonic spirits and faced the heavenly tribulation. As for the blood ancestor, he had regained his consciousness due to the fusion of the blood drops and the awakening of his essence spirit. However, his body no longer had a physical form but was instead a dark red blood mass. Since cultivating, he had never been as weak as he was now. This weakness even made him feel a deep chill. The hatred he harbored for Wong Lin had reached its peak. He had never hated anyone like this before. Wong Lin was the first. This caused a significant reduction in his cultivation. If that were all, it would be tolerable, but the last strike from that old man sent him back into a state of lost primordial spirit, forcing him to wait again for the blood drop to merge. Furthermore, beneath that old man's strike, there was a powerful force, as if it was imprisoning him. Just when the fusion reached a critical point, on the verge of awakening for the second time, Wong Lin appeared. The blood ancestor, facing repeated setbacks, could only flee in the end. At this moment, he had become utterly weak, and his primordial spirit was filled with overwhelming rage. Wong Lin, old man, will never rest until you are dead. The blood ancestor roared wildly, his voice echoing through the void. He had lost all reason. Anyone who had gone through so much would have lost their mind too. Especially with the imprisonment left by the mysterious old man in his primordial spirit, it nearly drove him insane. After flying for a while, he suddenly turned and rushed in the direction where Wong Lin had disappeared. I would rather not heal my wounds than let you live. The fragment continent, where Wong Lin was, drifted slowly in the void. Wong Lin, with his eyes tightly shut, had the immortal sword circling around him. Su Ligua floated nearby, looking troubled, muttering to himself. Logically, I should leave, but I can't just leave this calamity star here. Sigh. I, Su Ligua, am a loyal person. I can never abandon my master. If I don't run, surely this calamity star will value me more in the future, and the benefit should be greater. Still, Su Ligua is clever. Su Ligua's eyes flickered as he made up his mind. Besides, this calamity star is just a clone, the true body. At the thought of the true body, Su Ligua shuddered. If there was anyone in this world he feared, it was the true body. In the Alliance star domain, on an abandoned planet radiating with thunder, deep within it, there was a natural cavern. The thunder inside the cavern was even stronger. At the very bottom of this cavern, someone was sitting cross-legged. This person had blood-red hair, and an eerie, cold aura surrounded him. At the center of his forehead, four star marks slowly rotated. As he inhaled and exhaled, spiritual energy gathered from all directions, merging into his body. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. In them, there was a terrifying calmness, with a trace of bloodthirsty killing intent. Blood ancestor. You forced my clone to faint. This matter cannot be left unresolved. It was Wong Lin's true body. His true body clenched his fists and slowly stood up. After a long silence, he charged forward, and a deafening rumble echoed as he burst out of the ground, causing all the soil and rock layers above him to crumble. With another loud sound reverberating, his true body emerged on the eastern part of the planet, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Without stopping, he stepped through the void and shot towards the starry sky. In the vastness of the stars, his true body spread his arms, and a series of crisp popping sounds constantly rang from his body. The sounds grew more frequent and intense, and his body swelled with visible veins. Eventually, the noise coming from his body sounded like distant thunder, continuously spreading outward. Gradually, his body began to change. His legs grew thicker and lengthened, and his arms followed suit. Slowly, his entire body inflated, growing at an alarming rate. His body grew larger and larger, and during this process, the sounds from his body grew heavier, as if ancient roars were emanating from within him. His face bore no sign of pain, only calmness and the burning anger in his eyes. His body kept expanding, and half an incense stick later, a giant over 100 zhang tall appeared in the starry sky. A wild aura radiated from his body, and his skin was covered in rough, tiny runes, which shimmered, making him look imposing and filled with unimaginable majesty. A low growl came from his mouth. This growl felt like it came from the ancient times, with an air of condescension over all things. In this roar, Everything drifting in the surrounding starry sky seemed to awaken ancient memories, retreating in fear. Even fierce beasts on nearby planets immediately lay flat on the ground, trembling, as if their very souls were shaken. The ancient god was the god of this starry sky. In the era when the ancient gods roamed, all creatures had to revere them. Now, after countless millennia, this low growl seemed to shout out to the stars, proclaiming the return of the ancient god. In that moment, Wong Lin had gained the majesty of the ancient god. He was the ancient god. The ancient god began his growth from the fourth star, and his body grew at an alarming rate. Previously, Wong Lin had always kept him suppressed, but at this moment, he no longer restrained himself. Instead, he allowed his ancient god body to fully reveal itself for the first time under the vast starry sky. Only by unveiling the ancient god body could one truly be called an ancient god, possessing the true power of an ancient god. Blood ancestor. You injured my clone and left it in a coma. Now, I will destroy your blood star. A ruthless look flashed in the true body's eyes as he took a step forward, making the very stars tremble. With each step, it was as though he walked on flat ground, heading straight into the distance. As he walked, he raised his massive right hand, pointing his index finger to his brow. Instantly, a surge of immense spiritual power erupted within him, forming a mark. This mark emitted an ancient aura and covered the star point on his forehead, causing it to disappear. This mark was not something a regular cultivator could master. It was an ancient god technique. Its purpose was to hide the mark of the ancient god, and unless one was an extraordinarily powerful divine ability practitioner, no one would recognize his true identity. In the Alliance Star Domain, if there are the giant demon clan, no one will suspect my 100-jong body to be that of an ancient god. A cold light flashed in the true body's eyes. His body, although insignificant to a full-grown ancient god, was not a concern. He was not worried that someone would associate his massive form with the ancient god. As he moved forward, his expression remained unchanged, heading straight toward the blood star. He had seen the star map left by Tian Yunzi years ago and knew exactly where the blood star was located. While walking, the true body's gaze sharpened as he saw several fragments of stars floating ahead. These stone fragments, varying in size, were common sights in the starry sky. Without hesitation, the true body took a step, and his enormous right hand reached into the void, grasping a 100-jong-sized fragment. With a low growl, he forcibly lifted the fragment, wrapping it in his spiritual power and pulling it along as he continued onward. After the true body left, two cultivators, hiding behind a slightly smaller stone, flew out. Their bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with terror as they stared at the rapidly retreating figure of the true body, dumbfounded. What is this? The two looked at each other, their scalp tingling with fear, and quickly fled the scene. Along the way, whenever Wong Lin encountered stone fragments, he would choose those that were 100 zhong in size. He would then use his spiritual power to draw them along. These fragments were his weapons. In his inherited memories, the young ancient god, who did not possess many divine abilities, used these fragments as weapons. Moreover, these fragments were extremely useful. More was always better. Carrying a long river of fragments, Wong Lin moved closer to the blood star, filled with a chilling murderous intent. Kill. In truth, any great divine ability practitioner capable of occupying a cultivation star as their dwelling would never choose to stay too close to one another, even if they were close friends. After all, one must always guard against others, especially these old monsters who had cultivated for many years and understood the importance of this precaution. Similarly, cultivators who had the ability to open a cultivation star as their dwelling did not need the protection of the Tianyan star. Thus, they often sought out more remote locations when selecting their dwellings. The most crucial factor in choosing a dwelling on a cultivation star was its location. It could never be within the range of someone else's divine sense. Otherwise, every move could be detected. No one would choose such a location. The blood ancestor, being a cultivator with secrets of his own, was especially cautious in selecting his dwelling. On the star map given to him by Tian Yunzi, the blood star was located in a very remote area, with no cultivation stars of other great divine ability practitioners nearby. This was one of the reasons why the true body chose to act. Carrying the long river of fragments, the true body's face remained icy cold as he moved swiftly toward the blood star. The starry sky was vast, and the Alliance star domain seemed endless. Compared to this, the true body's size was insignificant. Throughout his journey, the true body did not stop. With a heavy murderous aura and a cold presence, he moved forward, accompanied by the long river of countless fragments, heading directly toward the Bloodstar. Months passed in the blink of an eye, and although he encountered some cultivators along the way, they were always stunned at the sight of the true body, immediately halting any reckless actions. They did not recognize the ancient god. In fact, within the 4 great star domains, there were very few cultivators who truly knew what an ancient god looked like. The majority of them only had a slight understanding from ancient books. Furthermore, the ancient gods recorded in those books were usually 6-star or higher, with bodies comparable in size to a cultivation star or even larger. This was the unique mark of the ancient gods. A 4-star ancient god, however, did not emit an obvious ancient god aura. Among cultivators, unless someone had personally encountered an ancient god, they would not associate him with a being that had been extinct for countless millennia. This was also one of the reasons the true body chose to reveal himself. The reasons behind this were merely objective factors, but what truly made Wong Lin's true body choose to take action was the rebellious nature in his character. This time, the coma of his clone was extremely severe, to the point where the unbreakable connection between it and his true body had become faint, as if it could break off at any moment. Once the connection was severed, it would mean the death of the clone. A strong killing intent surged in the true body's heart. Over the years, the clones cultivated by him had actually lost any distinction between primary and secondary in his soul. The clone was him, and his true body was also him. The death of the clone would be like him being killed. If, at this time, the true body still chose to shrink back, thinking of hiding and waiting for a later time to show up after increasing his cultivation, then he would no longer be Wong Lin. Some things must be done, even without considering the consequences. Don't say that the chance of discovering the ancient god is negligible, even if it is discovered. So what? The true body's eyes revealed a cold glint, and his speed increased. In the memory passed down from the ancient gods, although many attack-type divine abilities could not be used, there were still some divine abilities for self-preservation that Wong Lin could now use, having reached the current semi-4-star stage. The most effective of these divine abilities was the ancient god clan's protective technique for their young, transformation spirit. It merged with a planet, not absorbing its spiritual energy, but transforming the entire body into spiritual energy and entering a dormant state. In this state, unless encountering a being of the same level as the ancient gods, no one would be able to detect it. This was the ancient god's divine ability, a level far higher than that of ordinary cultivators. The only thing to be concerned about is Tuasin. But if this person breaks free with his 8-star ancient god body, he will likely be recognized immediately by those great divine ability cultivators. Even if chaos breaks out in this alliance star domain, what does it have to do with me? I, Wong Lin, am no saint. The coldness in his eyes deepened. On the Bloodstar, there were many blood thralls, all under the control of the blood ancestor. Their essence spirits carried the blood ancestor's mark. When the blood ancestor lived, they lived. When the blood ancestor died, they died. Most of them were forcibly captured from various cultivation nations by the blood ancestor, robbed of their freedom, and made to serve him. Some were talented youths whom he had collected and raised with blood pills to become blood guards to protect the Bloodstar. The blood ancestor was naturally cold-hearted, showing fatherly kindness only toward his daughter. It could be said that, on the entire Bloodstar, besides the blood ancestor and his daughter, every living being was their slave, with life and death at their command. Zixian sat on an altar outside the blood pavilion, her face showing anxiety, occasionally looking back toward the blood pavilion behind her. This place was the blood ancestor's forbidden ground, and even she was not allowed to enter. At this moment, several beams of blood light rapidly approached from the distant sky, transforming into 4 old men in front of Zixian. These men had fluctuations of primordial energy, clearly great divine ability cultivators who had stepped into the second stage. Madam, another batch of blood thralls has perished. One of the old men lowered his head and spoke in a deep voice. Zixian bit her lower lip and remained silent. Over the past few months, large numbers of blood thralls and blood guards had mysteriously exploded and died on Bloodstar, and to date, more than 70% had perished. This situation filled Zixian with confusion. The only explanation was that the blood ancestor had encountered a problem. Madam, where exactly is the blood ancestor? Another old man raised his head, staring at Zixian, and slowly spoke. Impudent. Is this something you should be asking? Zixian's eyes grew cold, and she spoke icily. Yet, inside, she felt even more lost. Before, these people would never have spoken this way. Now, Everyone, including herself, was beginning to doubt. Was the blood ancestor dying? The old man sneered and turned, walking away. He was in an extremely foul mood, but there was also a hint of relief. He too carried the blood ancestor's mark, but that no longer mattered. I was forcibly branded with the blood ancestor's seal 6,000 years ago. To this day, if it wasn't for the blood ancestor's command, I wouldn't dare step out of this blood star. Now, clearly, the blood ancestor is in trouble. I'm just waiting to die here, but even in death, I want to die in my homeland. The old man's eyes showed sadness as he stepped into the void and flew toward the sky. The three other old men in front of Zixian looked up, watching their former companion's figure gradually disappear into the sky. After a moment of silence, the three of them exchanged glances without speaking further, transforming into three streaks of rainbow light and shooting into the sky. How dare you? Are you not afraid the blood ancestor will return? Zixian's eyes flashed with cold light, and she stood up, shouting fiercely. However, before she could finish, one of the old men glanced down at her from midair, his eyes cold. He spoke, "Shut up. You are nothing but the blood ancestor's plaything. Do you really think of yourself as the madam? We, cultivators, bow to you because of the blood ancestor. Without him, what are you? I've been on this blood star for nearly 10,000 years. I've seen dozens of girls like you." Leaving this sentence behind, the person charged into the sky, disappearing without a trace. Xian's body trembled, and she fell silent. As the four old men in red robes flew to the horizon, the blood thralls on Bloodstar who had not yet perished all raised their heads, their eyes filled with struggle. It was unclear who flew up first, but in a moment, almost all the blood thralls flew out one by one. Xian watched all of this, her eyes showing determination. She turned and looked toward the blood pavilion. After recalling the method the blood ancestor used to open the pavilion, she hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth. At that moment, the entire sky suddenly darkened. A thick pressure instantly spread across Bloodstar, causing Xian to freeze. When she looked up, her face turned deathly pale. What? What is this? In the starry sky, the first four red-robed elders, having flown out, clasped their fists to each other. Without speaking, they could all see the resolution in each other's eyes. Just as they were about to part ways, each of them seemed to sense something and turned their gaze toward the distant sky. There, a long river made of shattered stones was roaring toward them. Standing atop the river was a giant over 100 zhang tall, his eyes cold and filled with intense killing intent. The four red-robed elders' gazes sharpened, and they exchanged quick glances before instantly turning into four streaks of rainbow light, flying off in different directions, completely ignoring the giant's purpose. Blood ancestor, so you have your day too. Almost simultaneously, similar thoughts arose in the minds of the four elders. Behind these elders, a large number of blood thralls rushed into the starry sky. Upon seeing their true bodies, they immediately paused, but not one of them chose to fight for Bloodstar. With smug, cold smiles, they scattered in all directions. Some even stayed close by, gazing at Bloodstar from afar, preparing to witness its destruction firsthand. With Wong Lin's sharp insight, he immediately saw through the situation. He did not intervene, but instead, he surged forward with a massive amount of shattered stones, rushing toward Bloodstar. When he was close enough to Bloodstar, Wong Lin rose from the shattered stones. With his massive arms, he grabbed two giant stones and hurled them toward Bloodstar. The thunderous roaring echoed as the two stones, like shooting stars, sped toward Bloodstar. Upon impact, a blood-red light screen appeared, shattering the two stones. Wong Lin's eyes grew even colder. He swung his arms without pause, and one stone after another was hurled toward Bloodstar with his immense strength. At last, Wong Lin even leaped into the air, extending his arms and using his internal spiritual energy to summon all the shattered stones, which surged forward like a rushing river toward Bloodstar. Countless shattered stones thundered down. Though the blood-red barrier was strong, without the blood ancestor's control, it was limited, especially against Wong Lin's enormous power as an ancient god in his youth. After a short while, the barrier collapsed. The enormous stones crashed onto Bloodstar, causing the planet to tremble each time. A visible ring-shaped ripple spread in all directions. Xian's face turned pale. The tremors of the ground and the devastating force caused her heart to shake violently. She watched in horror as massive stones fell from the sky, each impact causing the ground to tremble. She couldn't fathom what kind of power or divine ability could produce such destruction. So terrifying. Xian gritted her teeth, and the fear in her heart surged like a tide. She glanced at the blood pavilion ahead, made hand seals, and began to imitate the Blood Ancestor's seal technique. Over the years on Bloodstar, she had secretly observed the hand seals the Blood Ancestor used before opening the pavilion. They were firmly etched in her mind, and after the Blood Ancestor's departure, she had secretly tried them, though she dared not aim at the pavilion. Now, with the Blood Ancestor near death, Bloodstar in chaos, and an external enemy attacking, she no longer hesitated. Her hand seals grew faster, and with each one, a bright red light flashed from the Blood Pavilion ahead, revealing a faint red light passage. Xun'er's eyes gleamed with excitement. Just then, the sky suddenly darkened again, and a huge shadow appeared on the ground. Xun'er froze and instinctively looked up. When she saw what was there, she immediately froze in place. Above the sky, a 100-zhang giant was stepping through the void, his cold gaze fixed directly on Xun'er. Xun'er's body shook. Behind the giant, several 100-zhang-sized stones roared through the air, heading straight for the ground. Fear surged in her heart instantly. She quickly looked down at the Blood Pavilion and, without hesitation, charged toward the passage that had appeared in the pavilion. But just as her body stepped into the passage, a piercing scream escaped her lips. The red light from the passage enveloped her, and her skin rotted at an alarming speed. A green smoke rose from her body, and even her essence spirit began to collapse. In Wong Lin's eyes, the woman's body turned entirely into green smoke and was swiftly drawn into the Blood Pavilion's passage. Wong Lin coldly gazed at the Blood Pavilion on the ground. With a mighty grab, he lifted not only the pavilion but also 100 zhang of the ground beneath it. In a single pull, he tore it from the earth. At that moment, falling debris from the sky rained down, and the entire Bloodstar became a field of ruins. Wong Lin held the Blood Pavilion in one hand, and with his other hand clenched into a fist, he slammed it down onto the ground. In the deafening rumble, the Bloodstar grew more unstable, waves of energy rippling outward, as though everything was turning to ash. After a moment, Wong Lin stepped forward. Amidst the tremors of the Bloodstar, his body shot upward, soaring into the sky, disappearing into the starry expanse far away. The blood thralls and blood guards observing this spectacle made no attempt to stop him. On the contrary, many of them raised their fists in respect, bidding him farewell in the direction he vanished. Not long after Wong Lin left, a brief moment of confusion appeared in their eyes, as if the invisible shackles binding their hearts had been broken. They scattered, each returning to their long-neglected hometowns.